Welcome to the Bestie Perspective, a raw, unfiltered space where we explore the mind, body, spirit connection. Every week, we dive into personal growth, holistic healing, and life's ups and downs to inspire, support, and remind you you're never alone on this journey. Mirror, mirror on the wall. What if the reflection you see isn't the truth at all? Welcome back to the Bestie Perspective. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever struggled to accept themselves as they are, felt like the odd one out, or battled with being their own worst critic. In other words, hi, welcome to Being Human, and welcome to our podcast where the three of us, three best friends, talk about stuff like this all the time. This is something that each of us has struggled with and connected on, and we're not the only ones. For so many of us, the mirror has become this twisted little portal of self-judgment. It can magnify flaws that no one else sees. It can also reflect back stories that aren't even ours. We've all been there, staring into that glass, picking apart every inch, believing the worst about ourselves. And when it's really bad, we can end up projecting those insecurities onto others, only spreading pain instead of healing it. Every doubt and insecurity is just fog on the glass. The fog is made up of the lies you've absorbed, beliefs that say you're not good enough, that you're too different, too behind, too much, not enough. Whatever the flavor, the core belief tends to be the same, of I'm not enough. And I promise you, it's not the mirror, it's not the photo, and it's not the number on the scale. It's not whatever thing outside of you that you're trying to let define you. It's the thoughts and beliefs that you've created. Because when your brain left on autopilot, it's basically a thought vomit machine. So, have you ever left a hose unattended after you turn it on and it starts spewing around like a wild snake and attacking everything in sight? Those are basically like what your thoughts turn into. You spit out every idea that you've ever absorbed over the years, zero fact checking, just spewing everywhere until somebody comes along to wrangle it and be conscious of what's happening. And those thoughts are all just mostly recycled noise from culture, childhood, social media, and all the other humans who were just trying to feel good enough too. So today, the three of us are here to share stories and expose some of the most ridiculous lies that we've ever believed and explore how to rewrite the stories we tell ourselves too. Because the way we see ourselves, not just in the mirror, but in our minds, matters deeply. It bleeds into every single area of our life, how we perform at work, how we interact with others, how we show up in relationships, how we perceive others, how we react, how we show up. It all starts within. So if someone makes you feel insecure, annoyed, jealous, or just off, it's not your sign to shame yourself or go fix something. It's an invitation, a mirror, a moment to ask, what is this showing me about my inner world? And the flip side, if you see beauty, confidence, or radiance in someone else, don't forget you recognize that too because it's already in you. You wouldn't see it otherwise. That's just a start of everything on my heart for right now because I want to help you clear the fog off of your mirror, bestie. I'm going to help you see your magic. This is part of my purpose, to guide people back to themselves and to find their light and find their magic. Because I know how heavy and dark it feels to live with the bitch inside your head who's always pointing out the negative.
Damn that bitch.
Right? She's a doozy, that one.
Yeah. So in some way, I have that bitch in my head who's always telling me that my worth and happiness is conditional and that it has to be earned. Like, for example, we'll go ahead and dive into this. I want you guys to share too. I'm currently unlearning a belief from that bitch in my head that I'm only beautiful with makeup. A belief that has definitely been shaped in my mind by family, culture, friends growing up, and, other well-meaning people who didn't know any better. Like, we all just try to fit in. So we all do the norm, right? Or whatever we've assumed that the norm is. And for the last like 5 years, it's been a work in progress, but I'm really learning to accept my bare face doesn't need to be fixed or explained. And I want other women to know too that they don't need permission to be seen without makeup. So I try to remember that I'm uplifting other women when it's really hard for me to go out of the house without makeup. Just to like let them see, hey, you're not expected to be perfect all the time or try to cover up anything.
Yeah.
Like, you're accepted just the way you are.
This one's got to be such a common one for women. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
At least in the US, because it's talked about so much. I've heard it so many times. Yeah. You are not alone, Hannah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And like on that, I'll also say I have seen a lot of ads for like no makeup. And I feel like that only like furthers the shame of like me not feeling good. I'm like, wait, so we're trying to put effort into like the effortless.
Right. That's so true.
And also like the women that I've seen advertising it, they have no flaws. They have nothing to cover up to begin with. Not a single wrinkle, not a single pimple, not a single bag or discoloration. Like, we're talking people who look like they've already spent their thousands not on makeup, but in the clinic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that just makes me angry.
It also makes me angry for other health reasons. I mean, there are hormone disruptors in this makeup. Like, a lot of makeup is not clean, and women put it on every single day. And then they have issues hormonally, like any kind of reproductive thing, like endometriosis or PCOS or all these things we've not considered, or I've not heard it talked about too much as could it possibly even be our makeup?
Oh, for sure. I mean, just our skin is our largest organ, right? And it's also super absorbative. So like anything we're putting on anywhere in our skin is getting absorbed.
Exactly.
And I think that's definitely an area that you're right. I think a lot of people don't consider.
I feel like even in the most unsuspecting places, you're absorbing things. Like, for example, 2 things I think of based on the soles of your feet. I've heard of people getting parasites from like walking around in like dirty water or something barefoot. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't fact check that for our listeners. But
because I love my earthing and my grounding and my barefoot.
I know, right?
Nature vibes.
Just no agua sucia.
Yeah, no dirty water. But then also, Lauren taught me that lavender is amazing when it's absorbed by the soles of your feet. And before you educated me about that, I didn't think twice about anything going through the bottom of my feet. I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And even on that note, that's why it comes down to even being cautious of what cleaners you're using in your home, especially for yourselves, for little ones, for your pets, because anything you're using on your floors is getting absorbed right through your feet.
So it's so crazy. You're trying to hide or mask insecurity, and yet you're poisoning yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
It's possible. And on the topic of beliefs that we're currently unlearning, was there anything that you guys wanted to share?
Sure. Yeah. I think something for me is definitely that my body is, I'm still currently unlearning this, that my body is weak and painful. And I developed those beliefs mainly because of chronic lower back pain, some years of inactivity, and just like not feeling like I could do physical activities like I used to. And it's just seeing my body as something that's fragile, that couldn't support me in the way that I wanted it to. But I've actively been working on rewriting that story because I wasn't getting any better, right? And we're creating our reality, we're claiming our reality, and I had to rewrite it. So I've started claiming a new identity, especially as of lately, that I'm a fit and healthy Pilates girl. And that has been one of my little mantras. And even when I have to take it slow, I remind myself that strength is being built. Each time I show up to move, to stretch, and nourish my body, I'm proving to myself that this belief no longer fits who I'm becoming. And it also, reflecting on this, gets me thinking about Atomic Habits, if you guys are familiar with that book, even our listeners. But changing the identity is like one of the first things talked about in the book. And it's like if you want a true change to happen, you actually have to assume the identity of the change that you want. And he shared a couple stories, but if you guys are okay with it, I'd like to share one of them just because I think it can kind of like emphasize how important the identity we're claiming is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so there was two. One of them, he was talking about a smoker, right? Like somebody who was smoking and wanted to quit. So he's like, there are two different people trying to quit. One person is the one actually claiming an identity to change, and the other person is not fully claiming that identity. So they said, somebody comes up, offers them a cigarette. One person says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. The other person says, no thank you, I'm not a smoker. So that second person is claiming that identity of I'm not a smoker. And how it's like such a simple change of verbiage, right? But like it's so powerful because every time that person, for example, is denying a cigarette, it's I'm not a smoker. I'm not a smoker. Thanks, I'm not a smoker, right? So it's the same thing that like I was telling myself, oh, my body's so weak, my body's in pain all the time, right? I'm so fragile. And so now I'm like, if I have those thoughts creep in, I'm claiming that new identity. I'm like, oh no, I'm fit and healthy. I'm a fit, healthy Pilates girl now. Like I'm pain-free, right? So I've really started tapping into that, right? And even just like continue on your goals, you can keep reflecting back and asking yourself, what would a fit and healthy Pilates girl do, right? Like you can also use it as a way to stay aligned with your goals, So I just wanted to share that because I thought it was really powerful when I read that, and just how a simple tweak of what you're saying can subconsciously like really affect you more than you think.
And you don't even realize the difference in that. It may have sounded the same to people listening.
Right.
But no, that is affirmation, and they are two people affirming two very different things. I am the identity that is trying to quit smoking because why? I'm a smoker. So you claim that. We have to really pay attention to what it is we're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I even reflect on like how much more powerful that statement of like, I'm not a smoker. No thanks. I feel like it leaves no gaps for someone to try to peer pressure you into, oh, come on, you're going to start smoking again anyway.
Right.
Like, hey, I've heard people like downplay people who are trying to quit all the time because they've had their own failed attempts and they don't believe that person can do it because they haven't been able to. And so I think just like not even leaving room, just deciding this is my goal. This is who I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to share it, because I'm like, this is like I shared something I'm actively unlearning, but I wanted to share this for our followers. So just anything that you all are trying to unlearn, just claim that new identity of who you want to be.
Yeah.
And you're already on the one way to get there.
So for me, what I'm currently unlearning. So I have several beliefs surrounding aging, getting old, seeing gray hairs come up, etc. So I know this is probably a common one, as well as having a baby. I will say those two things have been, there's been a lot of things surfacing for me that I need to address. Like, is just even feeling like I'm not attractive after having a baby, because let me tell you, things just sit differently. It's just not the same. The body has changed. And so even from breastfeeding, my boobs feel forever different. They've stayed bigger, which is honestly, I'm fine with that.
And it's true. They've been looking fine.
That I'm not complaining. And it's not like I was flat-chested before too. So it's like, all right, a little extra doesn't hurt. It's fine. But they do sag more now. And we all know that that is something very typical with age, unless we get plastic surgery or get a boob job, that, gravity takes its toll. Also, even just noticing how my pelvis sits now. It's like even going to the bathroom feels different, even after everything's all healed and said and done. Sorry if it's TMI for some people listening, but it's just like you pushed a human out. Like, it's just different. It's not going to feel the same. So all of that said, I will say, well, I'll add one more, is obviously looser skin on the tummy. Like, you stretched out your belly area. However, I am proud to say no stretch marks, thanks to Lauren's mommy.
Finger snaps.
Lynn, if you're listening, she advised me to get lanolin and rub it all over wherever, like the boobs, the belly, the butt, everywhere where you can just get bigger and grow and get stretch marks. I was actually told that it's hereditary. I've seen so many things out there about stretch marks. So if your mom got stretch marks, you will too. And I said no. I just remember deciding in my mind, I am the identity, like Lauren said, like, I don't get stretch marks after giving birth. No, this lanolin works for me. All that I'm affirming, I'm the identity of a woman that's not going to get stretch marks from her pregnancy. And lo and behold, I did not. But back to the aging piece. I heard an influencer on TikTok saying, one of her affirmations was that she likes to use is, I'm aging in reverse. I'm aging in reverse. And I loved that. I thought, yes, like, people have, there's just so many stories out there about people changing their appearances, reversing the gray hairs, wrinkles disappearing, even the shape of their nose, whatever. I kid you not. There's a YouTube video out there where one particular follower had a before and after and said, I'd been affirming for my such and such on my face to change. And literally, like, you can see it. They posted evidence. So wow. Yeah, it's incredible. So I'm unlearning the idea that you can't change something about your body with the power of your mind. Somebody I love is Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's got several books out. He's got all kinds of stuff. He's got some documentaries and other things. And he was first known for healing himself. He healed his broken back. And many of his clients, through his meditations and all his techniques that he teaches, they've shortened even the telomeres on their chromosomes, which deals with aging. They've made illnesses disappear, and amongst other things. So it's truly amazing what I am seeing our species do. So I have been very happy with my bounce back and feeling comfortable in my body, even with the changes, that if I can even just continue and really believe and get into the identity of the person that ages in reverse, that can change anything about her body, they don't have to be permanent. So it's been really fun to explore that.
I think you are one of the main people who helped me see the connection between the body and the mind. And I had a little taste of it in college. I dipped my toes in the water. I minored in psychology, and one of the classes I took was all about like mind-body connection and how one influences the other.
Yeah.
I thought it was fascinating. But up until that point, of, meeting you. That's all I had a taste of. And I didn't really explore much beyond that because everyone else at that time in my life was kind of just like, if I tried to bring up a topic like that, they're like totally uninterested. So I was like, okay, I want to fit in and not have people think I'm a lunatic.
You just had to find you.
Me is like,
I was just going to say, you just had to find 2 other lunatics, Hannah. Now you're all good.
The weirdo trio. You found us. Yes.
But I am a firm believer in how your mind and body are connected, because even the belief that I tell myself is, even when other people are sick, I don't get sick because I'm very healthy. And so when everyone around here gets like little upper respiratory viruses and things, like I do the things I know within my control, like to keep a distance when I can, to wash my hands and that sort of thing. But I also carry that belief of I don't get sick. I'm a very healthy and like vibrant person. And I love taking care of people. And so like being able to embody that and take care of people, I feel like keeps me healthy. It involves something I love too, so that just helps reinforce it.
I love hearing what you guys are affirming. Miss Healthy and Miss Pilates fit girl over here. I'm loving that.
Yes. And back on the subject of body image and self-acceptance, I wanted to share a little bit about my personal journey with it and what it's looked like so far, because I feel like what I've learned is loving and accepting yourself truly is not a straight line. It's not this perfect, polished thing where you either fully accept yourself or you don't, and trying to make it this like black and white thing. And sometimes building a loving relationship with yourself on a physical level looks like embracing your natural beauty and, going makeup free and letting your body just be, not sucking it in all the time, trying to be skinny. And, sometimes it looks like owning those new boobs and like showing them off on a date night with the hubs. And maybe you do wear makeup or change something that helps you feel a little bit more like you or aligns with that identity you're trying to create with yourself. There's multiple things that can be true at once, because you can feel empowered by the changes that you make that support a loving and accepting version of yourself. But you can also still hold space for the part of you that wonders why you felt like you needed to make any changes at all in the first place, or like that part of you that feels maybe like not enough or trying to fit in, or, maybe there's some wounding going on there. And there's just so many layers to it. It's hard for me to explain, but here we are in the podcast, so I'm going to give it my best shot. Like, what I'm trying to say is you can love the version of you who made a change while also grieving a version of you who felt like she wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
So to dive into this and make it a little bit more concrete, I want to share something really vulnerable. And it's my journey with my body from when I was 23 and I got a boob job. And I love them. I really do. It's not a bad thing. I feel feminine and sexy in a bathing suit, and my clothes fit me the way I always imagined and hoped that they would. I wanted them for my whole life. And I honestly felt a little bit less woman because I didn't have boobs. And when I finally did it, it felt empowering. And even now I look in the mirror and I think, damn, I love how I look. Like, I love that I did this. And I feel like, in a way, I was embodying that identity that I wanted to own, like you were saying, Lauren. And it's hard for me now to not judge how I got there, because I'm out here like, I have that shame that creeps in, and this little voice that whispers, like, you should have loved yourself the way that you were. Like, who do you even think you are to help people love and accept themselves when you got a freaking boob job to feel better? about the way you looked. Like, that's that bitch voice in my head where I just want to like slap her and be like, you're not helping right now. And so it's hard to sit with, but I'm sharing it because it's also the truth. I really do believe in the power of loving and accepting yourself and having grace for the past version of you that made that, in my case, I'm having grace and compassion for the past version of myself who decided to get the boob job because I really don't know what else I would have done to fill that need or that want.
And I will say, I feel like you can do anything in alignment and anything out of alignment. So somebody getting a boob job from a very, different place than how you're describing, it may not have been the best route for them. But I'm so glad you've obviously like sat with it enough. If it was something you wanted your whole life, I'm sure it was years and years, to where you had an understanding of, I'm sure you went through all the things in your head of like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Is this worth it? It is surgery. So the fact that you can look in the mirror and feel blessed and feel fortunate, like feel grateful and feel good in your body, to me, that tells me that you shouldn't, judge the route that you took. And kind of goes back to me saying how everyone is just different. And there is no one size fits all. For me to say you should have, it's like me saying you should have grown your boobs with your mind, Hannah. Like you shouldn't have gotten your, boob job. Or with Joe Dispenza healing his back with his mind, I have my husband who's about to have back surgery, and that fits him. Like, everybody gets to decide what's going to work for them. So kudos to you.
Mm-hmm. It was a difficult thing for me to sit with, but I feel like my desire was so strong after so long. I was like, okay, well, I've tried a lot of different things. Maybe I didn't exhaust all of my resources. I definitely didn't try to make them bigger with just my mind. But I feel like I will say on the other side of the surgery, so now, like from where I stand now, I feel like I spent so much energy like fixated on my insecurities, and after that, like that energy spent on like worrying about the insecurities is free now, like for other things. I don't worry about the way I look or like if you can see that my bra is too big for my boobs. Or anything else you might think about when you have small boobs. I didn't worry about it anymore because I fixed my insecurity through surgery. And so it's hard to sit with at times, but overall I feel good about it. And I just decided to share that standpoint on my story because it's a little bit contradicting. And I just wanted our listeners to see, like, you don't always have to have like this perfect story of like, I hated myself and now I love myself completely. But you can too. You can have that. You can have whatever you want.
You can have whatever you want. Yeah.
I think that's what makes life beautiful, and we're all just figuring it out. So that's something I changed about my appearance, and it did help my confidence. But if I wasn't trying to do deeper work after that, I don't know if it would have fully changed my confidence. So I'll just put that little disclaimer there.
Oh, I'm sure, because, like, I think it's always like a two-part thing, like we can't just change the outside and expect it to change the inside, right? Like it has to kind of go hand in hand, because all the beliefs and things that you had been telling yourself your whole life until you were 23, I mean, they didn't just go away overnight just because you woke up the next day post-surgery, right? Like, so I'm sure that it was still so critical that you did that inner work.
Oh yeah, definitely. What about you guys? What has your journey looked like so far with like your relationship with yourself, your body image, how you accept yourself, and have you done anything that has helped you feel more confident? Or have you ever changed anything about your appearance, and did you regret it or did you appreciate it?
Well, for me, I can say that it wasn't like permanent change, but in my hair. I am a curly girly, for those who've never seen a photo of me. And my mom actually has straight hair with some wave to it. So she didn't have a clue what to do with my curls. So when I was younger, she would brush them out, frizz me up, throw me out. Poor mama. Didn't know. She didn't know. So I remember having to.
You guys, she has like Moana curls.
They're gorgeous.
I just need you guys to see that and then think about what her mom did to her.
Maybe if Moana and Maui had a baby, that would be my curl.
Yeah.
So anyway. So I remember having to learn how to handle my hair, but before then I would straighten my hair. And I would say contacts too. So the confidence in doing that change, I will say, was short-lived because I did like the attention from people saying, "Oh my gosh, your hair, it's straight. It looks so different." And I, felt like one of the white girls in my school that had the straight, flat hair. But the upkeep became less and less worth it. And I ended up learning how to handle my curls, whether, it's a process. Soaking wet is where you put the product in, letting it air dry versus if you are going to do a blow dryer, use a diffuser. It's a whole cocktail, but they're beautiful. My hair is gorgeous. I'm so happy to have grown to love my curls. And glasses are a fashion statement nowadays too, so I'm good.
That's right. We all have our glasses on tonight.
Yeah, we do. And I love that you brought up the hair example because you're reminding me of me and my sister growing up. My sister has pin straight, thin hair, and I have like the curly, wavy, thicker hair. That's not super thick, but I always asked her, I'm like, can you please straighten my hair? And she would always curl her hair. And my parents would always laugh at us and be like, you guys are so funny. Like, you always want the opposite of what you have.
Mm-hmm. It's so true.
Yeah, so many girls do that too. They want what they don't have. But no, I've really embraced my curls. I love them. And I get compliments on it all the time. So learn to love what's on top of your head, people.
Yes, I think I can also relate to that. That curl experience.
My fellow curly girlies.
Yeah, especially because my mom also has like straight hair, and my dad never I think he grew his hair out when he was like way young, but it's like guys don't typically take care of their curl, like my brother, for example, right? Like y'all know he grew his hair out and it's so curly. But he doesn't put product in or do any of the steps Eileen was explaining. But one day I did do it for him and his curls were banging, let me just say. And I was like, what? But so I could definitely relate to that. But I think something for me that I had changed was actually I had fake lashes for many years. I think you guys probably remember that. And
that's right.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
I originally got them partly for the ease because I worked at the hospital and I just wanted to feel more put together without having to wear makeup every day. But I also thought they'd help me feel prettier. And they did. Because, it's just having, I guess, the idea of long flowing lashes. It just sounds so feminine, right? It just feels so feminine. And I think too, it's whatever we believe, right? So at that time it was, if I have these long wispy lashes, I will be prettier and I will be feminine and I could blink and blow someone away. No, I'm just kidding. I I actually had an old coworker in the OR say that. He's like, Lauren, if you blink, I'm going to blow away.
Well, it's better than, you remember, Lauren, you were with me, and that guy in Mexico, when I had my fake lashes, he just came up to me and was like, we were at a dance congress, and one of the teachers was trying to be funny, and he was flapping his fingers near his eyes like he was blinking and mocking me. But the only reason I got those was because my friend had just started her business, and I was like, do whichever size you want. So of course she picked like the biggest possible.
Bam! Yes. But maybe you can attest to this a little bit too. Like, I felt more confident without makeup. Like, if like having the lashes on, it's like I felt more camera ready, more feminine, just like, oh, like it's almost like that's what draws like people's eye first. So then like it kind of, I think, made me feel like, oh, it's taking away from like the rest of my face in a way. Like, oh, it doesn't matter if I don't have makeup on because at least they'll see my lashes. And at the time I worked in the OR, so we had to have masks on the entire time and hair like coverings, like OR scrub caps. So like literally the only thing people could see was my eyebrows and eyes. So I was like,
they were on point.
They were on point. They were on fleek, absolutely. And so, but eventually I had them taken off, and I had them for actually a few years straight before I had them taken off for the first time. And I noticed how much I had been relying on them to feel beautiful. Because like there was this weird moment of disconnection, I think, with my natural face, like having to relearn to love it again, because you like go from having these butterflies, and I'm being dramatic because like there was one point when where I had them a little more dramatic, but I had them a little more natural toward the end. And it's like you go from these butterflies to nothing, and you're like, I'm bald, right? And I think that while it wasn't easy, I'm grateful for it, because actually making that shift, I started like using castor oil on my lashes every night. Like it just kind of shifted into like, oh, I want to try to make my natural lashes more healthy. And it actually led to a deeper confidence, because one that isn't glued to my lashes, so to speak. But because now when I look in the mirror, I feel myself being more gentle, and I hear myself being more gentle, right? Like previously when I first had them off, it was like, all the negative self-talk and, kind of going down that spiral with not feeling pretty anymore. But having them off and looking in the mirror every day and doing some of these things to just care for myself more, I started to find my natural beauty again and my natural confidence again. And then I started to hear more kind, gentle thoughts instead of constant criticism. So that shift has been really powerful for me, because, and you guys know this too, especially I would say in like the last couple of years, like I've really embraced like the bare face life a lot. And I haven't had fake lashes in forever, but also because I know you both have had them, I think too, not having them for a while now, I'm so glad I can scratch the hell out of my eyeballs when I want to. Because, right, like that's one thing where you're like, oh, there's this like certain kind of scratch you have to do when you have fake lashes, and you never truly satisfy that itch. So,
oh my gosh.
I think that's something I definitely am grateful for. But overall, to answer your question, Hannah, that is something I did change about my appearance, and it did boost my confidence for sure. Getting them off, like I said, was another transition, but I'm grateful because in the end, I think I love my natural face and lashes way more than I ever have in my life now. So,
I love that. Thank you for sharing that there at the end too, because I think that's so relatable for anyone that is maybe trying to tone down their makeup, the amount of makeup they wear, feel more comfortable in their own skin. Like it can be a shock at first to your brain when you look in the mirror and you're like, am I really going to leave the house like this? I look sick is something I've told myself before.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, there's other things too. I've literally had someone tell me I look sick before without makeup, but this was like way back in high school before I knew better than to like not let that in.
Yeah.
But you know, the message received, whether I'm talking to myself based on something in my subconscious or from someone else, is like, you know, without makeup, something must be wrong with me. And like our brain kind of triggers that when we look in the mirror, like, ooh, like you're saying, ooh, this is different. And I look bald. And stuff like that can really have an impact because it triggers the shame around your natural face being perceived as abnormal or concerning or unattractive. You start worrying about what people think of you and blah, 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 all that stuff. And you can even associate like health and beauty with a made up version of yourself. But I think to flip it around, someone else's confusion or discomfort with my natural face isn't a reflection of my beauty. It's just a reflection of the narrow lens they've been given. And I'm allowed to be bare, undone, and still be whole and beautiful. And then when it comes to our own subconscious, like when we're looking at our face and, for example, you know, coming off of the fake lashes, it's not a narrow lens that we've been given per se, but it's just we're so used to seeing something for so long and it's different. And I feel like that's how our social media and culture plays a role in how our subconscious about beliefs about how we look and how we're supposed to look, that's how that develops, because even without us thinking about it, we pass billboard signs, we see stuff on social media, we see on online ads when you're shopping online and you see people's bodies look a certain way. Like you're taking in all of this information that's just forming up these subconscious beliefs over time. Then when you see something different, when you look in the mirror, you might have those feelings of, oh, something must be wrong with me. I look different than that.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me transition into some fun facts I wanted to share about the subconscious and body image. Our subconscious takes everything literally. It doesn't like analyze or question everything. It just absorbs everything. And from my understanding, if you repeatedly tell yourself things like, I look awful, then your brain begins to accept that as truth and strengthen that belief because it's looking for that as a form of safety, and aligning that. So it accepts it as truth. But you can even start as small as, you know, to reframe it, you can start as small as saying things like I'm learning to appreciate my body instead of I hate my body. I hate the way I look. Maybe you don't love the way you look yet. That might feel like a lie if you try to jump and say that, but you can say something that feels more true to you at this moment, like I'm learning to appreciate my body. I'm starting to shift it. So one thing was your subconscious takes everything literally. And number two is most of your self-image was shaped before you were 7 years old. We are sponges when we are children. It's kind of terrifying, but also amazing how much we soak up from what we see and hear from our parents before we can even speak.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to point this out when it comes to talking about body image, because if you had an aunt or a mom or a sister who constantly criticized their body or talked crap about people in the magazines or the media, then you likely picked up on that energy. Even if they never said anything directly to you, you're thinking about, okay, but like, how do I stay safe in this situation? Or how am I going to be accepted here?
Right.
So when I think back about like the earliest messages that I remember about beauty and body, in the last episode, I shared with you guys how I was a chunky kid. And so there was an emphasis on my body and how I looked from about that age, like 5 to 7 years old, especially by 7. I remember that. I was a very large kid. I couldn't shop in the kids section at 7 years old. I was having to look in like the preteen and teenage section. And during summertime, when it was time to look for a bathing suit, like there was some options that like I couldn't shop in the kids section. So like trying to search for bathing suits above my age just wasn't always like looking appropriate. And my mom, Lord, I know her intentions were good, but how some things were phrased to a very impressionable young 7-year-old, some of the stuff still sits with me. And Mom, if you listen to this, please do not feel guilty. I know you will if you do hear this, but do not feel guilty. I truly believe this is part of my journey because now I get to help other people unpack their own stuff because I understand it on a deeper level. So that's the way I choose to see it. And there was just an emphasis on my body at a young age. And I know that's why I'm so self-conscious about it. So even like as I got older, my grandfather would always say like, you're so beautiful and beautiful people get places in this world. Always remember that, Hannah. Aww. And I remember thinking, damn, Grandpa, that's kind of shallow. But that was all part of that, message received was being beautiful meant you're worthy when you're beautiful, and you looking a certain way was what beauty was to him. And there were certain things that I did get. I won't dive into that in this episode, but what about you guys? Do you remember anything from your childhood that impacted your subconscious and how you see yourself?
Yeah, I will say mine is kind of the opposite of you, Hannah. I was always the skinniest person in class growing up. I was a little twig, and my subconscious beliefs for a long time were surrounding the idea that there is such a thing as too skinny and that too skinny is unattractive, especially starting those years of school when kids begin to tease each other. Like people would say things. But it also began with certain things in the home too. Like I had my mom's voice ringing in my ear, always saying, "You need to eat. You need to eat. You need to eat. Eiley, you got to eat." And so it was, if I was full or I didn't like anything, it didn't matter. Like I had to eat it whether I liked it or not. I had to eat it. Like they didn't believe me if I said like I'm full, I can't fit anymore. Like there was a lot of pressure around mealtime for me. And so that experience, and that did start, yes, before the age of 7 for sure. So I think that made me take two core beliefs into teenage years and young adulthood. The first one was I'm not attractive because I don't have boobs. I'm too skinny, no curves. And so I went through middle school watching all these girls develop faster and getting attention from boys. Now, it was a blessing in disguise because my mom was always cooking really good food for us, and we didn't eat a lot of the processed foods and things that, hormones inducing stuff where a lot of women or a lot of girls are developing even too early nowadays. We're seeing some like 6-year-olds getting their periods and things like that. So like the tables have really turned over time. But back then I was not eating as much of the junk as some of my friends. And so the boys, while they just, I was not on their radar whatsoever. We'll just put it that way. And so it didn't help that I also had the frizzy hair, the fro and frizz and big glasses and braces on top of that. So the core belief was kind of anything around that ugly duckling syndrome. The ugly duckling syndrome was real for me. And that led to tolerating poor treatment from men. I've come a long way, but I had to really work through that programming. So that was the first belief of being attractive and too skinny Therefore, I was not. Then the second one was a negative relationship with healthy food. I think from being forced to eat on top of being told I'm so skinny and having difficulty gaining weight, I went to foods that were bad for me. Because it's like, well, I have this fast metabolism. I can eat whatever I want. So I went to fast foods, greasy, fatty, sugary, all the junk. And that showed up until adulthood, where I had to be creative and figure out how and in what form I liked to eat vegetables. Like, I just grew up not wanting it. So I'm proud to say that I'm a low carb diet girl now. Today, well, I just got off a full strict keto diet for a couple months now, and that actually made me feel great. My husband's Catholic and he practices Lent. And so I did it with him, and I do every year to support. And so we gave up sugary stuff, carbs. We did full keto. And it was so fun to explore cooking because going keto forced me to be creative. So diving into the healthy foods and what I can do and how I can make it tasty. And so I'm now cautiously reintroducing carbs, but I do want to stick to a mostly low carb diet. So, yeah, so this second core belief with the negative relationship with healthy foods, it makes me want to be different with my daughter. I want to lay a good foundation for her and foster a healthy relationship with food. Thankfully, she's like her dad and has an amazing appetite. So that little stinker can put it away. But by age 7, so many things can change, like toddler years and being picky and all kinds of things that can change. So I want to make it fun, creative, playful, where she can understand healthy foods are your friend and not have an aversion to green and good foods.
Yeah, it's so crazy to see all of the ways that our experiences shape the way for like the rest of our life, honestly,
Yeah.
and even to how we decide to raise our own children.
Right. So true.
Oh, yeah.
And I think your words, your mother's words, are going to help you, with your future children as well, Hannah.
Absolutely. And I only talked about one part of it today, but she also said some really amazing things to me when I was a child too, because I went through some bullying and stuff because of that. And there's things that she said that stuck with me that if my kids ever went through that, I mean, I'd be pulling on that in a heartbeat.
Oh, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
So thanks, Mom.
We love our moms. Yes. I know. I can definitely second that because, although I had, since we're doing a little mom gratitude moment, I also just want to say thank you to my mom because she didn't necessarily get the support growing up that she needed, I think, to build her confidence and boost her confidence with her looks and everything. And so I remember her telling me that she always wanted to make sure that she did it differently for her kids because going back to your ugly duckling reference, Eileen, she always told me that that's how she felt. And so growing up, she always used to really enforce for me, like, you're so beautiful, and, just would like constantly affirm those things for me. So but at the same time, it's like funny because I'm glad that I had her pumping those things in because I definitely know a lot of people who get a lot of criticism from their parents. And even if I was insecure about something, even now, she'll always have something to say to try to make me feel better. But reflecting back, I think for me, I actually developed earlier. Because I know you were saying that you developed a little later, Eileen. I actually started developing breasts like 4th grade. Like, it was actually really young. And like 5th grade, I think end of 5th grade, maybe I started wearing a training bra. Like at that point, it was like, you know, they were coming in enough to where I needed to like wear a little something. But I think it was a lot earlier than a lot of my peers. So I kind of had like insecure, almost like covering up insecurities or like, you know, it kind of felt like, especially because when I was young, like my doctor literally had said that like, oh, like I see some breast development or something. And then my brother goes, they're just fat. Right. And so,
oh, no.
and then, okay. And in reality, we know they're fat and glands. Okay. So technically, technically he was right. But I remember like hearing that as a kid, I was like, they're fat? What?
Oh.
Right? Like, is there something wrong? And so I think
leave it to our brothers to say the perfect thing to make you feel better.
I know, right? And so I think that's like a body thing where like I think a little bit I worried about that. And I think I was just always like as a kid, I was never particularly overweight, but like I was always really tall. So like compared to a lot of my peers, I was always bigger, like just a bigger person. And so like I think that growing up the tallest one in my class pretty much till boys hit their growth spurts in like 8th grade, I think it always made me want to make myself smaller, you know, because it was like, because I think too, people would say, oh, you're a big girl. And I think hearing that, it's like, your brain doesn't necessarily take, like, you know, they meant it like you're a big, tall girl, like you're a tall girl, right? But like when they say you're a big girl, I feel like I was internalizing that like differently. So I feel like I was always worried about like looking, like wanting to look skinny and this, that, and the other. And I even think back to like pictures of myself in high school volleyball. And I'm like, wow, I thought I was fat then. Am I kidding? Right? Like, because I'm looking back and I was this like little twig. And yet, like, I still had this voice in my head. And so I think like maybe just because I developed earlier and maybe just like being more aware of my body at a younger age. Like, I think I was in 6th grade when I got my period, actually. So it's like I started encountering these things like pretty young. I think it just made me more aware of it. And aware of my body and the things that were happening with my body. And so like I took that forward, but I also had, you know, experiences like my first boyfriend in high school, like he would point out things with my body. And now again, this is like when I was skinny, right? Like a skinny volleyball player. And like, I remember him making a comment like, oh yeah, I think you're getting a little pooch on your stomach or, right? Like these.
I swear.
Right?
What's his name? What's his name?
And I think back now, right? And I'm like, damn, I wish I could go back and defend that girl because I would not take that shit, right? And, but it's like, it was sad because, you know, then it's like, I really took that to heart. And that's why I didn't actually believe that I was like thin and fit and in shape then when I totally was, you know, because, and now even like going to now, I think I've definitely struggled with the belief of not being good enough, right? And I think that was also things that were ingrained through experiences before 7 as well. And so I think that also just programmed into my body, like looking in the mirror, it's never good enough, never fit enough, right? Never skinny enough, like whatever that is. And it's been a hard journey too with the chronic back pain stuff that I've shared with you guys because I have gained weight over the years and I definitely weigh more now than I weighed in high school. And so it's like looking back again at the pictures, I'm like, damn, I was so skinny then. I can't believe it. Or I can't believe that I felt insecure. So I think that that's kind of been like my body journey over the years. But I think now I'm like finally stepping into a place of more understanding and compassion, right? And like we talked about in our last episode with intuitive movement, like really trying to get in touch with what feels good for my body, and even just learning to accept where I'm at now. And even though I'm not where I'm at now, I don't necessarily quote unquote like what I see in the mirror sometimes. I definitely am more kind to myself. And I think that that is just a huge step in the right direction. Because again, I'm reaffirming I'm a fit and healthy Pilates girl, right? And I think that I've really put in a lot of effort to try to let go of the I'm not good enough belief, you know? So I think it's kind of accepting that I am even more than the shell that I wear around. So I think even thinking about that helps me as well, knowing that like people aren't my friends because of what I look like, right? Like if I looked completely different, you two would still love me.
Duh.
And I was also going to say too, like it's a really great foundation for wherever you're starting at. If you have a goal, especially if it's a physical goal with fitness, if you're trying to lose weight for whatever reason, because you want to feel hot or because you want to work on resolving chronic pain and everything in between that. If you want to build muscle and feel really strong, like being kind to yourself on the journey is imperative. And you're going to get so much farther when you have like that compassion for yourself. When you see something in the mirror that doesn't align with the vision you have, like compassion is the bridge.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, girl.
Yeah, and thank you too, as well. I think everything we said is definitely going to be relatable to someone out there.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of start wrapping up the episode here with just some science and talking about the science behind body image and why it's so freaking hard to love our bodies sometimes, and also how to start rewiring that. Because first of all and foremost, our brains are wired to notice what's wrong via negativity bias. So, you know, I've heard this said many times from other coaches and teachers and therapists. Back in the caveman days, being hyper aware of danger kept us alive. So our brains evolved to focus on flaws or threats more than the good stuff at an attempt to keep us safe. That means even today, when we look in the mirror, our brain's first instinct might be to zero in on the one thing we don't like because of our survival wiring. And I think that's so wild. You know, like you might zero in on that pimple right before your first date of this guy that you're like hyper fixated on. And you're like, he's the one. I got to look perfect for him. We're going to have babies together and get married. I don't want him to see this part of me because then he won't want me. I'm just being dramatic with that example. But then there's also this part of the brain too that's called the default mode network. And this kicks in when we're on mental autopilot, like when we're daydreaming or thinking about ourselves, or replaying past events, worrying about the future, just overall like mentally zoning out, like daydreaming. And the default mode network is especially involved in self-referential thinking, meaning thinking about you, your identity, your appearance, regrets, hopes, insecurities, everything else. And that's why that often plays a big role in your body image struggles, anxiety, and overthinking, especially if there's things you're fixated on trying to fix. But the good news is that your brain is totally moldable thanks to neuroplasticity. So you can rewire your thoughts with practice, and you can train your brain to be less self-critical, more kind and compassionate, just like strengthening a muscle. And there's lots of tools out there to do this, and I'll share some at the end. But just for example, meditation, becoming aware of the thoughts that you're having in the first place is a great starting point. And becoming aware of those things can help you break the cycles of rumination or spiraling. And you can also create space there that you can begin to write new stories and create new thoughts and beliefs about yourself and try things on from a quiet, relaxed place. A couple other terms I wanted to share that you might hear out in the wild are your reticular activating system, or RAS. And this part of your brain acts like a filter because it helps you notice things that match your beliefs. So I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but if you believe you're not enough, your reticular activating system will literally search for evidence to back that up. So again, if you start feeding it new, more empowering beliefs, even if you start neutrally, like I have a body and it does things for me, then your reticular activating system starts confirming that instead for whatever belief you choose to own. And finally, there's Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together. And that means the more often you think about a certain thought, the stronger and faster it becomes. So if you've been repeating, I hate my thighs every day for 10 years, then that neural pathway is a highway by now. So
there you go. Yeah.
You have to that's where having the compassion comes in to like, okay, we're literally about to build a new ramp off the highway and there's no other road there yet. So it's going to take some time. Being patient.
Yeah, I love that analogy though. Mm-hmm. That's so good. Because it also points to the fact that, you know, we don't know what someone has been internalizing and for how long. And that's why there's so many factors that it's going to make it maybe a little bit harder for somebody, where somebody else who should go through that same amount of difficulty doesn't, because it's not a 4-lane highway with no ramp.
Yeah, so it takes reps, it takes time, it takes practicing new things, trying on things that feel good and like that serve the version of yourself that you want to be and how you want to feel. So just remembering that the brain is capable of change and you have a lot more power than you might believe, I think is a great place to start when you're trying to decide what tools or things that might support you on your journey. I know for me, some of my favorites have been just practicing deep gratitude. That's been a theme in I think at least 1 or 2 episodes up to this point, but having gratitude for my body and finding the joy in it has been one of my favorite ways to build those beliefs and practice strengthening that muscle of loving my body and having a better relationship with her because of all that she does for me. Like when we were talking about intuitive movement in the last episode and all of the ways that we love to move, I had a list of like 20 things. And then at the end of it, I was like, wait, like this is making me feel so grateful for the body I have that I'm even capable of doing all of these things. I might not have that forever. I might, but that could be taken away from me at any moment. And so I don't hold that lightly. And I have deep gratitude for that and the joy that rollerblading freely makes me feel like I can't put that one into words. I feel so free. And the joy that brings me, that just helps double down and work that muscle for me of rewiring. Because in those moments, I'm able to more truthfully say, I love my body and all that it provides for me and the experiences that it provides for me. And there's other ways I like to do it too, like just connecting with my body through breath work or dancing, by moving and feeling through whatever I'm doing instead of judging it. Like I'm just there in the moment, just feeling with my body. If I have a place that hurts, then I might focus in on that and just try to give that part of my body a little bit of extra love. And that's all part of how I build a relationship with her. So, what about you guys? What are some of your favorite things that you've done that have helped change your relationship with the mirror or change the way that your relationship with yourself looks like?
Yeah, I would say I have a few different things that I lean on. I think one for me is definitely like the interrupting the negative self-talk. When I catch myself spiraling, I try to pause and ask, like, would I talk to my best friend this way? Right? Because that's like something that, I even try to share with people is like, try to talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. Because sometimes the mean, nasty things that we say to ourselves, I mean, could I ever imagine?
Better not, bitch.
I know, right? Like, could I ever even imagine saying that to one of you two? Right? And then even if I shared something with you guys that I said, you'd probably be like, oh my God, that's so mean. How could you say that about yourself? Right? So that definitely helps me instantly soften and reframe what I'm saying to myself. I also like to try to focus on the positive strides that I'm making. So whether it's like cooking more nutritious meals or getting in that daily movement, or even showing up for my Pilates classes, even if it's not perfect, I try to zoom out and appreciate how far I've come instead of obsessing over how far I still want to go. That's been really helpful. Also, taking care of myself like someone I love, preparing healthy meals for me and my husband, or moving my body even in simple ways. It's an act of self-love and self-respect. So those small choices remind me that I matter. And they're not just habits, but they're love in motion, And one of the other things I like to do is standing by my boundaries. Because every time that I honor a boundary I've set, whether it's saying no, protecting my time, or even just not tolerating something that drains me, I reinforce the belief that I'm worthy and deserving. And I've started really seeing myself as someone who's allowed to be a priority. So I would say that like those four main things are probably things that I utilize the most and try to reflect on the most.
Thank you for sharing that. I especially love the celebration one. I feel like it's difficult for us to remember. It's important to celebrate the progress along the way. Like it's okay to slow down, even if you're not where you want to be yet, to reinforce the positive. Let yourself enjoy the ride and
definitely
be excited about it.
Because it's so easy to be like, but I said I wanted this goal, and I'm not there yet. But instead of just like, slowing down and being like, but wait, look at what I did this week, or look what I just did today, And I think when we zoom out and we, can see like I think you even said this earlier, it's about the journey, right? Not just where we're going.
And so for me, I will say I do a lot of the ones that you guys have mentioned, but some of the ones you guys haven't said yet, this one's just fun, but just using my imagination and playing out scenes where I'm a queen or a goddess or like anything fantasy and fun where I feel awesome. And it may not just be the physical appearance in that image, but it's just whether I'm powerful or I'm beautiful or whatever. Like, I'll do that occasionally just because going within is supposed to be awesome. And like, I used to do it way more, of course, when I was a kid and adult life. And when life is life and you have less time to do that, but we should, as adults, remember that. Like, whatever is going to elicit you feeling amazing, do any and all of it. So for me, one of the things that I still do, maybe not as frequently as I'd like to, but imagination. And Eileen has been many fun characters in my head.
I love that. That's so fun.
Right? Like, I mean, why not? If we have like a whole Prince Charming scenario, or I don't know, riding a unicorn, you get as wild and free as you want with it, right?
And I think tapping into that play is so important, like just to highlight what you're talking about. Like, we could get so wrapped up in adult life and monotony and all this stuff. And so it's like remembering to take little moments to play, even if it's inside your imagination, is so beautiful.
And isn't it that stagnation and the seriousness and the routine that's building up in our bodies anyway? And we're seeing that reflected to us in the mirror. So the flow and fun, like, that's going to help us breathe and move and do all that we need to do to change whatever it is we're wanting to change anyway.
You're making me think, I think the three of us, the next time we're together, need to like play make-believe again.
Oh my God.
Like when you get together with your friends and you play make-believe and, like we could take turns being queens, but you're making me like down for a good old game of make-believe.
Seriously, I also, you're reminding me now of something I heard recently, how that's one of the best tools to break anxious patterns and anxious thoughts, because with anxiety, you might feel stuck there. But if you invite creativity intentionally, you're building more like neural pathways towards creation, thinking outside of the box. And like
that
inviting new narratives, and just building, not just feeling stuck or trapped or like you're going to die. You're like looking for a way out. So I think any way of being creative and just like going along with the flow of it. I could go on and on about how kids keep us young. I used to nanny, and when I would play make-believe, the parents would look at me like, wow, you're really good at this. Like, strangely good.
Some kids,
you're committed.
Some kids, they're, oh my gosh, they will take you on 20 different stories. Like, Lauren was at Elena's christening after party, if you will, and one of her cousins, like, at one point we were fixing a dishwasher, and the next point we were at a disco party. I have no clue how
that's right.
Connected.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Kids keeping us young. So one of the next ones, I was going to say, I don't do this anymore, but I remember a time when I needed it and it worked. I had Post-its on my bathroom mirror with affirmations for the longest time. That was really great. And some of them weren't image only. Some of them were like, men respect me, because even as we talked about some of those core teachings, it turned into me, not having the greatest relationship. So just things that I wanted to embody, period. Put them on my bathroom mirror because you use the bathroom several times a day. And my last tool I wanted to share that no one mentioned as well is energy work. And in particular, connecting with the heart, getting myself, and now I teach clients to tap into the space beyond the skin barrier, helping people remember we are not just our bodies. It actually can even be in the energy field that we're harboring something that is keeping us either disconnected from the body or disconnected from the change we want to create or the identity we actually want to be. We're actually claiming this weight to stay on or claiming this pain to not go away, whatever it is. The energy work has been so amazing, not just for myself, but for the people that I work with.
Thank you guys for sharing your favorite stuff too. And as we close out today's episode, I just want to remind our listeners that You are not your thoughts, and you're not your reflection. You're not just a body, like Eileen was just saying. You are so much more than that. And you're the observer behind your thoughts, the soul behind your eyes, the part of you that's really able to connect to that heart and soul space. So when the mirror starts to feel loud, try asking, what's really being reflected back to me right now? Just allow yourself to explore, begin to write new narratives, and own up to what parts of your mental software need an upgrade, because your mirror is not broken and neither are you. It's just time to update the story. And I also wanted to plug I think it's like a 15-minute mindfulness from one of my favorite facilitators. Her name is Sarah Blondin. And the name of this mindfulness practice is called Unveil Your True Self. And she begins with this narrative called Things I Wish Someone Had Told Me. So if anything from today's episode struck a chord with your heart, I think you'll find that mindfulness as a great place to start rewiring and putting new narratives in your brain that feel good and might even open up some floodgates and get you really connected to your heart. Also, if any part of this episode made you feel like, hell yeah, say it louder for the people in the back to hear, then please share this episode with a friend who needs a reminder that they're one of a kind, truly beautiful on the inside and out. And if you want to continue the conversation about this, you can always email us via thebestieperspective@gmail.com or connect with us on social media. And don't forget to join us next week for an episode that Eileen is going to guide us on. It's called Family Traumas and Dramas. And we will be talking about all things dysfunction and healing on the family level. So until then, keep growing, keep glowing, and always trust in your own bestie perspective.